For part two of the pen tool lesson, I wanted to create something that had some more difficult curves to it so we could get used to how the pen tool works when it comes to creating those curves. In this case, the vector tool. I'm sorry for continuing to draw the parallel between Sketch and Adobe software. So let's do the volume icon. If you guys are familiar, it looks a little something like this. It goes in for a bit, straight out, over, and up. And that's not perfect, so I'm going to double click in here and just make sure that everything here is kosher. I'll pull this down a little bit, and that down, and this down. This looks a little bit more even to me. Still, I'm not really happy with the shape, so again, with all these things you can keep going in and tweaking the shape. Okay, well, we'll call that what it is. So that'll be the base, and now we need the sort of waves coming out of this icon. So let's start working on those. Now with the vector tool, you can see, by the way, pixels. I've got my pixels showing, so I'll go hide pixels and show just the smooth forms of these. Now the first volume bar, or the first projected bar, will be a little bit shorter than this space right here. So I'll click here, and then I'll click here, and I'll start to click, and then I'm going to pull. Okay, and the idea is to make a curve. You'll see one of the balls, the two little balls, one I'm pulling, the one on the bottom. Now you can see two circles here, and I'm pulling on the bottom one. The top one needs to be about in the center of that curve. That looks good. So now I have this sort of bent line, right? And that's not what I want. So if I hold down Command, you can see it straightens it out. So I'll click and it'll make a straight line. And over here, I'm going to click and drag again till I get about the shape that I want. I'm going to hold down Command so I get a flat shape. And look at this here now. It's curving when I go to connect it. How do I deal with that? Okay, it's very odd. So instead of finishing the shape, I'm just going to right click and say confirm this shape. Well, the way I would go back and close this off is clicking at this point and using the menu to finish up, because clicking right here just seems to let me select each path, and that's not what I'm interested in doing. So I'll select this top one here, you go to Edit, Paths, Close Path. Pretty important little command if you ask me. I'm going to give this a fill and turn off its fill color. Now I'm not really happy with this curve, so let's go back in and double click. I can get to editing. Moving around these paths. You got to be careful. I mean, sometimes you're pressing right next to the dot and you'll create these extra paths. And the extra paths aren't necessarily not helpful. They can help you tweak things a little bit further, But the less you can put on a path as far as points go, generally I find the better that these paths come out. Those two are aligned. And I like this a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's close. So we can take that, drag it out. This is also close, but it's not the right thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these lines all back in. Just pull this out a little bit, tweak the path. Sorry if I'm getting quiet on you. I know I just want to sort of get through these edits. But you can see you can really be futzing with some of these paths for a while. So it's real hard for me to get an exact drawing feel inside this program. Maybe it's just of nature of the paths. Here is a little bit closer to how I would do it. I would start a circle, maybe somewhere along there, and then take that circle, copy and paste it, I'll line it up, paste another one, line that up, and then I'll send that one backwards twice, I'll send this one backwards twice. And now what we're doing here, we're going to take one circle, it's going to be out here. And if you want, you can bring down the opacity so we can see through them. Circle will be here. This circle will be here. And what we're going to do, bring up the opacity. We're going to give them all the same stroke size. So all 10 or 30 rather strokes each. And then this way I can even, you can see, size it up so I get even spacing in between them. I'm just going to scale it down until I think it's a little bit more reasonable. First I'm going to go to Tools, Vectorize, and say Vectorize the stroke. What that's going to do is turn these 3 strokes into very simple vector objects. So these are all different objects now, and I can go and make those inherent this color. But for right now, I'm going to make them a very different color. Once I have these created, I'm going to go ahead and make a shape. Let's call it a triangle. I'll click on rotate and just rotate it around a bunch. And then these ovals, I'll do the triangle is go to Edit, Use as Mask. Now that's an interesting command, but essentially I can keep putting it backwards. And you can see here it's masking now these other shapes. Pull it down a little bit. You can even just overall expand it. And if I like that, I can just turn off the border and turn off the fill. And then these 2 shapes that I drew before, they're a little hard to select. Now that I have all these here, I'm going to go ahead and group them into one thing. Go ahead and select my 3 ovals, turn them into that color, and we have a little bit more viable of a volume icon. So you can take shapes, since the pen tool is a little wonky, you can take these shapes and not just do Boolean operations like union, subtract, intersect, and difference. And let's really quickly show you what those do. Even though their icons are all pretty self-explanatory, I like to show them anyway. I'm going to go ahead and do another oval. I think the nice thing to do is do a red and a blue combo. That way you can really see what happens. Now these 2, when I union or unite them, it's going to make them all one path. Even though over here in the layers palette, you can see the 2 shapes still remain as if we had combined them from the layers palette. Now here we're going to subtract. The top one cuts out from the bottom one. But you can see both paths are still completely intact. In fact, you can pull one right out of the other. Now this operation is intersect, which only gives you the in-between space of both of them. And the last one is difference, which cuts out the in-between. And you notice in all of these, the foreground object picks up the background object's properties. So it's sort of back to front, if you will. Back to front, and that's absolutely the way you're not supposed to clean yourself after going to the bathroom. So that's some stuff to think about. So that's the Boolean operations, and of course, finally making masks. You can take a shape, make it a mask, and sort of drag it underneath other objects. So if I was going to make some rounded rectangles, say these are icons or what have you, and then let's say I make an oval. I can go to oval, edit, use as mask. Nothing really happens until I take it and I bring it down underneath the three objects. You can see every object goes into the mask. So if I resize, this is technically a way to get around the image issue. The mask can have a background color itself. Oh, this is, when I say a way to get around the image issue, this is a way to make it so that you can get an image that's not exactly top left centered or a little bit more custom cropped. Now that we've done a deep dive with the pen tool, I'm going to save this and you can use it as volume icon. It'll be a sketch file. And we're going to get into filling our objects and creating a little bit more customization. That's coming up next.